Hey, good morning everyone with Carolina Weather Authority. I am meteorologist Joshua Nagelberg, and happy 4th of July weekend to you. Finally feeling like it should in July. 95 and sunny today, I'll take it. No storms on the horizon, at least for the next couple days. But let's talk some tropics because it is now July. We're starting to look at the Cape Verde season beginning to pick up. We've already had 4 named storms this tropical season, which is well above the average. Typically by now we're talking maybe 1 named storm, so we're well above that pace. And you've been reading with us here. We're expecting an active tropical season and the potential threats to the Carolinas and Southeast. And none of that's really changed. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you what we need to take a look at because I'm going to make a couple of bold predictions here. And this is not hype. We're not clickbait people. We've just been studying the weather for a while, and we see what we see, and I think we need to share it with you guys. I mean, after all, we are the weather authority for the Carolinas, are we not? So let's go ahead and take a look at what we're looking at here. And real quick, go to our YouTube channel, and if you haven't already, please subscribe. We're definitely working to grow our reach here, and you've probably seen a few videos about the tropics already. We're going to continue to harp on these and give you our temperature outlooks and then any breaking weather once we get to that. Really hasn't been too outrageous of a summer. Temperatures have been around average. We had a cool spell with rain in June, and then it heated right back up, and now it's definitely hot out there for sure. But you've seen our articles on our page here. We're talking about some pretty nasty heat. Today's not going to be terrible, but tomorrow will definitely feel more humid, so do exercise caution outdoors. And of course, we are continuing to look at the possibility of at least 1 major hurricane to affect the southeast this tropical season. And I'm going to go more into why. This is not just we're going to forecast this every year and see if it happens or not. I mean, it's been happening, and we don't see any reasons why it can't this year. The tropics are quiet right now. That could change in the next couple of weeks. Looking at the satellite imagery, I don't have any areas of major concern. We do have some waves coming off of Africa, but a lot of wind shear and dry air alofted here. That's going to keep anything from forming for a while. An upper level low in the middle Atlantic shouldn't develop. Just a few thunderstorms along a front here. Again, lots of wind shear. Not really anything that shows us any signs of forming. But this front does kind of hang up over the northeastern Gulf and come back up through the Mississippi River Valley. And we're going to have to watch it over the Gulf of Mexico and off the southeast coast next week. I don't see anything really at this point that points towards an Edouard anytime in the next 5 days, but that doesn't mean something couldn't pop up quickly like we've seen in the past. So that's definitely something I'm watching. Africa, you can see several waves, nothing really organized at this point. Another one just came off the coast. It's probably going to fade as it comes east. But here's what we want to take a look at. Ocean water temperatures are quite warm across the areas where we can see in-close development off the East Coast, off of Florida, off of Cuba, and anywhere close. Now, farther out off the Atlantic coast, we're pretty much running near average. So what that means is it's definitely possible something could form out here and survive and come across, but it's probably not going to form into a hurricane or something really to be too concerned with intensity-wise for a while until it maybe comes up towards the Puerto Rico area. And you know what, that's really not unusual for July. In August, if we see this expand, which it may or may not, then I have more reasons to be concerned. Ocean heat content is pretty darn high, though. If we do get something to make its way towards the northwestern Caribbean or towards the Bahamas or off of Florida, there's a lot of water for a storm that if it's not going to be affecting land right away, if it's circulating over water to form quickly into a major hurricane. But notice out here, we still don't have a lot of water content, ocean heat content in the waters of the central and eastern Atlantic just yet. That could change, though. This is a look at where we look to see rising air and sinking air aloft, and the yellows indicate unfavorable sinking or unfavorable air for major tropical development. So really it takes us until the end of July before we start to see conditions become more favorable. In close, though, over the Gulf of Mexico, we could see some development, it looks like, towards the later part of the month of July and maybe into August. But once we start seeing more widespread greens here, beginning of August, that's when I think we're going to get to see more action. The European model does not show anything to really be concerned with at this point. This is the 4th of July. We do have a trough which is cutting off over the southeastern states early next week. So 2 things can happen there. The first is that we could see low pressure forming and bringing us some wet weather the second half of next week. And I think that's definitely possible. The second, though, is if parts of this start to drop southwest into the Gulf. Now, if that happens, we have to be more concerned with tropical development in the Gulf. Either way you look at it, I think it's wet across the southeast right into the second half of next week. So enjoy the sunshine we're getting today and tomorrow. It's not going to stay that way. But two pieces right here to watch. Right now the European keeps everything over land, so we're not too worried about development at this point. It's just going to look wet. But here's that second piece I talked about. But notice there's really nothing over the Atlantic to worry about for the first half of July, which is what we're kind of thinking. The GFS from earlier this morning, yep, here we go, does not show a whole lot of development at this point. It's got a lot of rain over the southeast here next week. Eventually it heads our way, and low pressure does form and kind of spin up over the Gulf Stream. So, you know, if this takes off and moves northeast, it could become Edward, but it's not going to be a problem for us. By then, it's actually going to dry out. And then as we look further past that, we see wet weather over the Gulf states, but really nothing of concern here. Actually, another high pressure ridge starts to build back in. So it'll be dry and hot by the middle of July for us. Nothing coming off of Africa in the next 15 days, so nothing to worry about there. But the next run of the GFS kind of goes a little bit bonkers here. I'm going to show you in a little bit. So here is our low pressure trying to form over the Carolinas later this week, but just not a whole lot. In fact, the GFS starts to track things back into the northeast Gulf, and check this out. Goes a little bit bonkers over Louisiana and Texas. You know, the second full week and third week of July. This is an outlier, so I'm not really expecting this to be what's going to happen. If we trusted the GFS after day 15, every model run, we'd have 100 hurricanes. And we all know that doesn't work out. So maybe we do get an Edward in here. You know, maybe it's out here, maybe it's over the northeastern Gulf. Either way you look at it, I think it's more of a rainmaker than a wind maker at this point, whatever does occur. So I'm not really worried through the first 20 days of July. Now after that, I am getting a little bit more concerned with the way that the pattern is shaping up. This is the climate forecasting system, and let me try to do this where you can see the Atlantic. But again, through the first 15 days, not much. You've got a pretty good high pressure ridge forming in here, but what I do think we start to look at is some development coming off of Africa, and here you can see it's trying to sniff out a system north of Puerto Rico on the 24th, and then you know, maybe that comes up in our direction towards the 30th, maybe not, but what this could do is set the stage for more development in this area. So as we head into August, I think we've got a little bit more to be concerned with. This is just one model run. This is from a couple days ago. If we look at the run from, I think it's yesterday, here we go, more development off the southeast coast on the 25th. And I think this model tends to go a little bit quickly with how it develops things. I mean, maybe something weak forms, but right behind it on the 28th, it does show multiple storms developing as we get to the 30th. So if you watched my video a couple days ago, you saw that I thought maybe we'd have our first hurricane on July 30th. So we could have an Edward ahead of it, but then we have our F storm, and here in the Carolinas, the F storms have been have been a big problem. You know, we've had Fran, Floyd, and Florence. Of course, those were all in September. This is July and early August. So will this work out to be a major hurricane hitting Florida? Maybe. Probably not. Will it be something that hits the Carolinas? Maybe. Probably not. But I do think, you know, July 30th into the beginning of August, we have our first in what could be a barrage of hurricanes, and some of which could be major hurricanes after August. So yeah, this one model run may get it right, it may not, because notice the next model run doesn't do anything like that. It does show pretty good ridge of high pressure just south of Bermuda. This one brings activity into the Caribbean, so again, not very consistent. But here we go, the model run from yesterday afternoon shows another possibility of development towards the end of July, but more storms beyond. And it's all going to depend on where this ridge of high pressure sets up. Is it going to connect with the ridge in the west? Is it going to have weaknesses in it? Is it going to pull things into the Gulf or off the southeast coast? Your guess is as good as mine, and if anybody says they know for sure there's going to be something hitting Florida, they're just lying to you. So either way, we're looking for a ridge over troubled water. We're seeing heating of the ocean, and we're seeing more favorable weather towards the end of July. And we're going to likely see an F storm, and I'm not going to say if it's going to hit the Carolinas or not, but you know, we are certainly we get back to the graphic. We're certainly on the alert here by the end of July and beginning of August for maybe the first of several storms, which could impact this region in here. And I am pinpointing this area in here and also this area in here for being our likely areas to see a hurricane and possibly a major hurricane. So keep it tuned here for the latest, and I'm glad you guys got a chance to watch this before you plan out your travels later this month and into August. And we'll keep you guys posted as we have more. But yes, we're going to heat up our tropics here. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and appreciate sharing with you guys. Have a happy 4th.